Good afternoon and welcome to the CEO Summit. We are fortunate to have Judy Schramm with us today. This has been a session I have been longing for and looking forward to. We've had some great LinkedIn speakers talk about automation and virtual assistants, but we have one here specifically for this audience, the CEO audience. She has been working with CEOs for the last 10 years. She knows LinkedIn in and out, how to build your brand, engage with people, and build your reputation, grow your reputation. I have been fortunate to learn from her, talk to her before this, and we have an amazing session. So Judy, thank you for being here with us today.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. And just for the audience that may not have met you before, that are listening here today and will be listening, give us a little about your background. How did you just get started? How did you learn so much about LinkedIn? What made you an expert in this space? Because I know you're an expert. They're going to learn today from all my questions, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so I was one of the first 100,000 people to join LinkedIn when it was first introduced. And so I started experimenting with it and playing with it. But where we really got deeply into it was after the 2008-2009 recession, when marketing budgets were slashed. And we were trying to figure out how we could help our clients, generate leads and make sales in this environment. We got the bright idea to go build lists on using LinkedIn. And we decided we didn't need everybody in the industry. We needed enough people in the industry. And so we built lists. We started reaching out, introducing, staying in touch with people, nurturing, educating, and it worked extremely well. And the more we did with LinkedIn, the more we wanted to do. Initially what we were doing was very counter to the way LinkedIn saw itself. And so that was an issue, but more and more LinkedIn and what we do has become very closely aligned. And especially now with the focus on thought leadership and content, that is exactly what our clients want. So over the years, we've just gone deeper and deeper. They talk about needing 10,000 hours to be an expert. Alone, I probably have 30,000 hours. But my team, I've got a team of 20, and, all of us spend so much time on LinkedIn, and then we pool our knowledge.
Well, we are excited to have you here with such an amazing background and experience. Let's get started talking about profiles. I have so many questions to ask. We won't get through all of them, but I want to touch on some very, very important elements that will help our CEOs out today. So as you're looking at a LinkedIn profile, what are the top elements that a LinkedIn profile needs to have to distinguish oneself from the masses of others?
Yeah, so for a leader, the first thing that really makes your profile pop is to have a clarity of messaging, right? So the best leaders on LinkedIn, the most effective ones, have given thought to who they want to talk to, who's coming to visit their profile that they care about, what do those people need to know, and the profile is crafted to attract those people, engage those people, and to educate them. And so that's the first sign of a great leader presence. The second thing is to have a very polished look to the profile. And that starts with a headshot, to have a professional headshot, not just something you took with you, not a selfie. And then to have a header graphic that is branded, professional, helps tell your story. Pictures tell 1,000 words, right? And the header graphic really attracts your attention as soon as you get to the profile. So a strong header graphic makes a big difference. And then the third thing people typically see on the profile is the headline. And that's the line of text that's directly under your name. And the people who, again, leaders have a meaningful headline. the things that follow you around LinkedIn, no matter what you do, are your name, your headshot, and your headline. So it makes sense to think about that headline as if it were the subject line of an email. That's what's going to make people want to click and come back and learn more about you. So crafting that headline intentionally is very, very powerful. And those are the things at the top of the profile that are what people see first. And that's where people get their initial impression of who you are and where you first have the opportunity to impress them.
We've talked about the picture, the headline, the image, right? You've shared some best practices already. One that maybe you could touch on a little bit is the about section and then your experience. Any recommendations you have for those, and how important are those?
So the about section is extremely important. That functions like the cover letter to your profile. So what you want to have there is the information, like if you were doing a summary of all the most compelling things about you and your background, that's what you want to put there. So for example, you want the things that will impress people and build credibility. So the highlights of your career. You want to have you want to be speaking to the people who you care most about. And for a lot of people, that would be prospects, potential clients and customers. But for some people who are in hiring mode, their company is growing very fast, the people they care most about are prospective employees. And then some people are fundraising, and so they care about investors. So you want to think about what can I pull together that will tell people the story of who I am and what my business is doing, will build credibility and prepare people for that first conversation. So you can some beyond that, some other things that really fit nicely in there are stories, right? So you become more memorable when you use stories to tell who you are, keywords, and a call to action. There are several places on LinkedIn that you can put a good call to action, but the about section, that cover letter is an excellent place.
And any on the experience, what should they include there? Should they include all of their experience? How would you make recommendations to that section?
Yeah. So the in the experience section, what we like to see is first of all, just a quick sentence about what kind of a business it is. I mean, obviously, if it's IBM or Cisco, people recognize those names. But if it's a smaller firm or a regional firm, then you want to just give people a frame of reference about what the business does. Then you want to talk about what your role is or was, what your responsibilities were, what your accomplishments were, what you're most proud of from your time there, and then finally, what you learned. The very best, strongest LinkedIn profiles let you get this career journey sense of how each prior job contributed to the store of knowledge that the person has and how it prepared them perfectly for what they're doing now. So that's what I would love to see in the experience section. It's also a really good opportunity to put keywords in the profile.
Now, thanks for sharing that. We before we move away from profiles and start talking about content connections, any other piece of advice you want to give people on their profile to optimize that we haven't talked about?
Well, one thing is the header graphic. We talked briefly about a branded header graphic with potentially the company name, the company logo, maybe a call to action. But the thing that also works really well for a header graphic is a photo of you at a speaking engagement, because that speaks to you being an expert in your industry and shows how respected you are. And it's a very good way to show thought leadership and build trust. If you don't have that, one thing you can use is a local cityscape. So in a lot of the photos that we use in my company, we have pictures from Washington, D.C., because we're headquartered in Northern Virginia. So we have like the tidal basin with cherry blossoms and, just different images that are local.
No, that's a really good advice. Thanks for sharing that. So I think anybody that wants to be able to get an optimized profile, identify your audience, perfect that, Judy is the person to talk to. Let's jump in the next section about content that connects. In your view, what type of content resonates most strongly with a leadership audience?
So your insights, right? The reason people want to hear from you is because they respect you, they value your opinion. And when you share your interpretation of events, why something is, something in the news or something your company has done is important, that is the kind of thing that people want to hear. And that's what both attracts them to you, to follow you and engage with your content. And it also is very appealing to the LinkedIn algorithm. The algorithm right now is looking for what they consider thought leadership content. And so, adding your store of knowledge to the universe is highly valued.
And what's the right balance between your own thought leadership content and promoting what your company is doing and the thought leadership content that they provide? What recommendations do you have for that?
So I like to see a balance, and I would say, maybe 20-25% thought promotional, no more than that. It, the the best way to get conversations started, to build your reputation, and just maintain mind share with people is to provide value, right? And so the promotional opportunities are a chance to step into a conversation, right? To engage with your business, to learn more, to potentially make referrals, right? To have people talking about you and your business. So there's value in the promotional, but most of it should be what you think, what you're doing, what your questions people are asking you, what your team is up to, what the business has accomplished, right? You want to have a really nice balance.
And as people are creating this content, what are the common pitfalls in content creation you see that leaders should avoid from all the leaders you've worked with?
Well, so one thing that used to be really popular on LinkedIn and is just not working very well now is curated content. And people used to put huge amounts of time and effort into going and finding relevant articles and then sharing them on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has kind of moved past that. LinkedIn does not like it when you share content that takes people off of the LinkedIn website. And to the recipients, the people in your network, it feels a little bit like a homework assignment. Here, read this and learn, and we're all so overworked. Nobody wants more homework. So leaning heavily on curated content would be one mistake that I see. A second mistake that I see is depending on ChatGPT to create your content for you. Now, there is nothing wrong with GPT. It is a fantastic brainstorming tool. It's a great way to get a first draft, but it is very easy to recognize AI-generated content, especially for people who are not neck deep in AI and don't know how to do very sophisticated prompts and don't understand that you need to do multiple iterations of everything, and then still customize, right? GPT tends to do very generic content. It's very wordy a lot of the time. And, even when you give it instructions to be pithy and get to the point and, all of the good stuff, lots of times you're still not getting very good content. And so that would be the second, right? Is to don't depend on GPT. The the real value comes from what's in your head. And you want to find a way to get that out in the most efficient way possible.
And if you had to do a recommendation, video content, written content, image content, what works, right? What is the best format that you've seen that people like?
I like a mix. The long form articles, we call them blogs, LinkedIn calls them articles, are very useful, and a lot of people don't realize the value. Um, they're they are anchors on your profile. When you publish a blog post on LinkedIn, it stays on your profile for years. It attracts search engine traffic. It attracts LinkedIn traffic. It's very powerful tool. And so for things that are complex that you want to explain, where you want to go into detail, those blog posts have a lot of value. The shorter posts tend to be most of what people do, and those are text and images are fine there. I love video. The thing is, 80% of the people on LinkedIn watch the video with the sound off. So if you're going to do video, you have to make sure you're using captions, and a lot of the CEOs and executives that we work with are not comfortable doing video. Some are, and that's fabulous, but not everybody is. And so there are a lot of options. The carousels can also be extremely effective, and although polls are not as big as they used to be, they still do pretty well. So a nice mix is good.
That's very good. And how do you measure the success of content posted on LinkedIn? What are your rules of thumb for that?
So, well, first of all, it's digital, right? Digital marketing. So you have all kinds of data. And one of the exciting things that is happening right now on LinkedIn is that the amount of data you have about your posts is going to be increasing this coming month. LinkedIn introduced something called creator mode last year, and it was designed to encourage people to be creators, right? To create content and publish it. And one of the things creator mode came with is some very good data on who's visiting your profile, what companies, what titles, what geography, and who's viewing, engaging. And so data that you used to have to pay extra for is now available inside creator mode. LinkedIn is in the process of opening up creator mode to the public. Everybody's going to be able to have it for free. And so you're going to have a lot of really good information about what's going on with your viewers and your engagement. That said, it is possible to have numbers in views and posts and engagement that look amazing and still not be getting results from LinkedIn. So we like to see all these numbers, going up and up and up. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, are people telling you they like what you're saying on LinkedIn? Are people commenting on it? Are they, when you meet somebody you haven't seen in a while, do they say, hey, I really like that post you did a couple weeks ago? Because one of the funny things about LinkedIn is that most people, especially most executives, are not going to like or comment. That doesn't mean they didn't see it, right? And so you want that anecdotal. You want to be hearing from people that what you're talking about is valuable to them and they enjoy reading it. And so you want the combination of data and anecdotes.
That sets the stage for the next set of questions of this engagement, right? Because what are they saying? What are people telling you? Are they engaging with your content? What engagement strategies cultivate meaningful relationships on LinkedIn?
So the first thing is to give before you get. And that means engaging out. One of the best ways to get people to pay attention to you and to get them paying attention to your content, engaging with your content, is to engage with theirs first. And so we encourage our clients not only to engage with their own network, but to engage outside of their network because their network is extremely valuable. You know, typically CEOs have built that network over years, and it's a very rich network. But there are so many more people who don't know about you. And when you engage with thought leaders who have an audience that is full of the kind of people who would be useful to you, and you get your name in front of those people on a regular basis, you're bringing new people in, having them hear about you and having them learn about you and your business. So engagement is absolutely critical.
And you mentioned a little bit of this. So should executives go out and comment, follow, direct message? What is your best practices for engaging outside of your network? And is there an order to do that? What's most effective?
Well, the first thing you want to do is do some research and identify the thought leaders who have an audience that is full of the kind of people you want paying attention to you. And that's we do some of that research for our clients when we do their strategy. We look at who has built a large audience on LinkedIn that is relevant to you. And so the first thing you want to do then, once you have that list, is to follow the people and to ring the bell on their profile. Now, the bell is something that's relatively new. It's in the top part of the profile in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click on that bell for someone, you will get notified when they post. Now, when you get notified and you see that post, the sooner you get in and comment in a meaningful way, the better, because when you're one of the first comments, you're most likely to be at the top of the comment list, which means all the other thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of people who are following that, viewing that post, reading that, have the potential to see your comment and to learn about you. And so adding a meaningful comment early is a huge factor. Now, what makes a meaningful comment? So not great article, right? First of all, LinkedIn values comments of 5 words or more. So you want to string it out and say something more meaningful. You want to agree with part of what they said, disagree with part of what they said, quote data from them, tell an anecdote that supports or does not support one of the things that they talked about, right? So, in other words, take what they have created and build on it, add value to it, and maybe ask a question back, right? It's the opportunity to get a conversation started. And so the more meaning you put into what you contribute, the more you're going to get out of it.
That's right. And what kind of frequency should executives try to maintain of interacting with others without making it too overwhelming? What do you suggest?
So where we can get it, I like to have them spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes a couple times a week. Not everybody is willing to do that. Not everybody has that kind of bandwidth. But if you can attach it to another habit, some of our clients will, they take a glass of wine out on the patio after dinner and they, spend a little bit of time on their phone. Others do it in the afternoons on Saturday or Sunday when they're at a kids' soccer game. You can build a little bit into your day. And one of the things we do for clients that really saves them a lot of time is we go out and identify the posts from thought leaders where we think they have the opportunity to make a meaningful comment, and we give them the URL. So they don't have to scroll through their news feed or pay close attention to the notifications. We alert them and we give them the direct URL. That saves so many hours.
And yeah, that's really good advice. Do you have any recommendations for participating in groups? Is that something that is worth it? Should they do it? Which groups should they join? What are your recommendations?
So the groups are not working very well on LinkedIn and haven't been for a couple of years now. Most people who do anything in groups go in, post their own content, and leave. They
Yeah.
they don't engage, and so those groups are active, but they're not meaningfully active. There are a couple dozen groups that I find that are active and that are really worthwhile, where people do go in and they participate in conversations. And one of them is Damien Corbett's C-suite uh, group. It's I forget the exact name, but it's C-suite executives in social media. Who wants to learn more about being active in social media? That's a great group. I also like Dharmesh Shah's on startups group. There are a handful, but for the most part, it's not there. There's not much going on.
Okay, that's good. That's good feedback for everyone listening. Um, Jumping into a little bit about thought leadership, how can executives establish themselves as a thought leader within the industry on LinkedIn? What are the recommendations, steps they should take that you haven't shared with us so far?
Well, I've shared a lot so
You
far,
have.
but
Yeah.
what I would say is make a habit out of contributing your ideas. And you can do that in a lightweight way just by reposting content from other people with your own thoughts. You can do it in a more meaningful way by doing blog posts, 500, 800 words. And you can do it by engaging with other people's posts. But the idea is that this is a huge community. It's 1 billion people worldwide, and this is an opportunity for you to contribute your ideas, to engage with other thought leaders, and also to learn from them. And when you do that, and keep in mind that the people who visit your profile, who come to your profile to prepare for a meeting or because they were referred to you, somebody said, oh, you need to go talk to Joe. Those people can see who you're commenting on, what you're engaging with, what you say. You can get, a history of that person's activity on LinkedIn in a minute. And so it's a really good way to help people understand who you are and where you're coming from.
That's very, and you're sharing an amazing amount of knowledge with the audience today and advice, and I very appreciate all that you're doing. Very grateful, and it shows your depth of expertise in this area. Um, Tell us a little bit about the strategy when thought leadership, as there's a lot of topics executives can talk about, and especially when they're running big organizations. Do you suggest that they come up with kind of a strategy of what they want to be a good thought leadership on? What should they talk about? Like, where do they start when they have so much to talk about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're designing a strategy, we start with the goals. Why do they want to do this? And in the biggest companies, usually the goal is around the employees. In the smallest companies, the goal is around lead gen. So you start with a goal because that tells you who you're talking to, who you care about most. And then we look at 5 branding blocks. And we will typically define 3 that are business related. And these are topics where you want to be known as an expert and you have a point of view or multiple points of view on the topic. Then we encourage people to choose a cause, something that is really meaningful to them, and then also to have something personal that they use to relate to people. And it doesn't have to be private, shouldn't be private, right? But it could be one of our clients is actually a couple of our clients are triathletes. Others are in bands. One collects antique cars, and just something that's a little quirky. One is part owner of a semi-pro football team. So just something that makes you stand out and allows you to talk about who you are as a human, not just who you are as a business person and a leader. And from there, you craft a very three-dimensional persona. Does that make sense?
So they are, repeat those three again, the blocks.
So, three business related blocks, three areas where you want to be known as an expert, and where you have a specific point of view.
Okay.
Then a cause. And so, for some people, the cause might be diversity or sustainability or the value of education, women in STEM. It could be a whole lot of things. But the idea is something that you care about in terms of making the world a better place, because that really, it helps people see more deeply into who you are, and it also shows that you're about more than just the next paycheck, closing the next deal. You care about your community. And then finally, something that you are comfortable using to relate to people that is more personal. Could be that you're a reader, could be that you're a sailor, just something else that you can talk about that helps people feel like they know who you are.
Very good. And then, what's the importance when consistency in your messaging? What's your recommendations there? How often? How consistent should you be? Any suggestions?
Sure. So first of all, you do have to be consistent. Social media is not one of those things where you can go out there and post a couple times or post, frequently for a month and then, go away and, be quiet for the next 6 months. It doesn't work like that. You need to be out there on an ongoing basis, contributing to the conversation. Now, the really great part for a CEO is that it does not require a lot of contribution to make an impact. We start people at one post or two posts a week. And that works not only from the perspective of being a good volume for people to consume. It also works well for the algorithm, because the LinkedIn algorithm does not want to see multiple posts in one day. If you post twice close together, it will stifle one of the posts and give some engagement to the other one. So you don't want to have a ton of posts going out there. And you also want to think, if a CEO is posting every day or multiple times a day, that's not authentic. When you're an executive, you are busy. You are running your business. You're doing all kinds of things. And, that you should be constantly active on LinkedIn almost implies that you're not doing your job. So you don't need a high volume. And, the other part is, how much do people want to hear from you? This is more. So, like I said, we recommend 1 to 2 posts a week. It can be 1 post a month, right? As long as you're consistent about it and the value of that post is high. Your audience will get used to hearing from you on whatever cadence is comfortable for you.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really good. In this balance that we're talking about between, we'll address, like, is it important to be provocative or professional in your thought leadership? What's the balance? What would you recommend?
So you have to decide for yourself what you're comfortable with. When you take a stand on an issue, it is actually easier to build your audience, because you have a point of view, you have a strong point of view, and the people who agree with you will be attracted to that. A lot of CEOs are reluctant to do that because they don't want to offend people. And as CEO, you do need to take a neutral stance on a lot of issues. So the answer for most CEOs is don't be provocative. That said, we have some clients who feel very strongly about specific issues, take a stand, and it works for them. they attract the kind of people who believe what they believe, like what they like, and want to do business with somebody who has the same values. And so you have to make that trade-off. The thing you have to be aware of is anytime you take a strong stand, some people are not going to like it. Those people are going to sometimes react badly, and you have to have a strong backbone, to let the complaints and the criticisms roll off of you. And if you know you have that it's not going to bother you, then go ahead and you want to be authentic. If you are truly a very strong, opinionated person and you want to be surrounded by other people like that, then go for it. If you know it will bother you if people criticize you and write in all caps and yell at you, then don't.
And there was one question regarding that is you mentioned negative feedback, criticism. How to handle negative feedback and criticism in public forums? What suggestions do you have?
So my best suggestion is ignore it, right? Don't respond, don't engage, don't do anything. Um, there are nuts everywhere, and some of them are going to show up. And this has happened to clients where somebody just decides they are going to comment, and lots of times with something that has no relation to what the topic was, but they're going to go out and they're going to comment on every single post. And people look at that and they go, person's a nut. And so they don't, it does not reflect poorly on you. It reflects poorly on the person who's commenting. That said, you can push that down by having other people comment and then like those comments. Those will float to the top, and the critical one will be pushed lower. You also have the ability to turn off comments, to delete the post, and to block the person who has been giving you a hard time. And ultimately you can complain to LinkedIn if you feel like somebody has really been out of line. And LinkedIn takes these complaints very seriously. They want to maintain a civil discourse on the platform, civil and professional. And if you've got somebody who's way out of line, definitely report them.
Oh, they're great advice. Going into expanding your influence and growing your audience, what are some key strategies for growing an executive's influence on LinkedIn that you've seen that worked well?
So the biggest thing would be posting regularly and then engaging with other thought leaders. I mean, those are the two main things that you can do. You should also connect with people. I mean, thought leaders and CEOs should have at least 1,000 connections, and most CEOs do have that. But posting, engaging, it doesn't take a lot, and it's not rocket science.
We mentioned this one a little bit about engaging, posting. How can leaders expand their reach beyond their existing network effectively? You mentioned some strategies. Was there any other ones that you'd like to cover?
Sure. So you can use LinkedIn ads to boost your post to the audience that you want to target. The ads are actually very powerful. You have a lot of granularity. You can target people by all kinds of criteria, including things that you can't search on LinkedIn, like age. There are a lot of options. So what we like to do for people who really want to get outside of their current network is to identify exactly who they want to reach and then boost the posts to that audience. And it does not have to be very expensive. You can do this for $500 to $1,000 a month, and focus very tightly on the people who matter most. Can be very, very effective.
And what kind of posts do you recommend being boosted? Right? What is for a $500 to $1,000 investment? What is the right kind of post to make that investment?
Well, so one of the things would be what's the quality of the post, right? If you put a lot of thought and effort into developing a meaningful post that talks about something that's really important to your business, that would be a good candidate. Another would be a post that has a call to action. So, for example, maybe you have a webinar coming up. Maybe you've just published an ebook. Maybe there's a conference coming up. So you can work around those those opportunities. And then it could also be something you did that already got a lot of engagement. Because if you're boosting that, people will see that you get a lot of engagement, and that will reflect well on you, and it will help attract even more people to pay attention to you.
That is a really good one. What about interacting with influencers? Does that play a role in collaborating with them to be able to expand your influence? And how do they do that? What do you recommend?
Well, first of all, you have to have something that has value to the influencer, right? They get contacted constantly. We just did a partnership with one influencer who I think has about 150,000 followers. And she said she gets dozens of people who reach out to her every day asking for favors. And, of course she can't do them all. That doesn't even make sense. So sorry, what you have to have is something that will bring value to them, something, an opportunity that will expose them to a new market, or some kind of a partnership, or something that's reciprocal. But it's not going to work if you have an audience of 1,000 and they have an audience of 200,000, right? You have to bring something to the table, and you have to have a really good idea. And then once you have that, then then they might be interested. But you should warm it up first, follow them, ring the bell on their profile, engage with their posts, comment on their posts, become a familiar name in their following. And when you do that, when you use your influence to bring attention to them, and when you help make their posts even more meaningful by having conversations, adding your own ideas, and of course, when you're supportive and encouraging to them, they get to recognize your name, and then they're more open to having a conversation.
This was an enlightening session. You're a truly expert. I think out of all of them, this has been the best LinkedIn session that I've done, and I am very glad for the information that you've shared with us today. Is there any final words that you want to leave with the audience, because we're coming to an end here, that you would like to, conclude with?
Yeah. What I would say is, I think there are some people who truly appreciate the power of LinkedIn, and there are a lot of people who have not, taken full advantage of it. People meet you for the first time on LinkedIn, and when you put effort into crafting your presence, crafting your brand, being intentional about what you're doing on LinkedIn, there is so much value for you. It's absolutely it's one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself and for your business.
It is. I've seen that. You've stated it many times today. You've given a roadmap. For those that want to reach out and get a consultation with you, get some advice, where should they go, Judy?
They should go to LinkedIn. It's Judy, linkedin.com/in/Judy Schramm, just my name strung together. And they can also reach me by email. It's Judy, Judy, at proresource.com.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. You are a true influencer in this area. You've been able to open the door for many and continue opening the door for many executives to build a reputation on LinkedIn. We also appreciate the audience who participated, who will be participating. We're going to be posting this as many places as we can, and we thank you, Judy, and the audience for participation, and we conclude our CEO Summit with this amazing speaker in the end. So thanks, everyone. And, and thank you, Judy.
Thank
And
you,
if you want to
Steve.
stand
It's a
on just a
pleasure.
little bit, we'll make sure the recording gets done.
Sure.